and we've
Okay, we're talking about godly societies. We've talked about sex. We've talked about things like murder rates and these sorts of things. What about intelligence and wealth and happiness? These are sort of some of the things that are kind of big general things. It turns out that wealth, for example, is negatively correlated with religious belief, and there's been a number of studies on that, including let's see, the Pew Global Attitudes Study. And intelligence, that's another one where people who are more educated, intelligence may not be the right word. People who are more educated and more knowledgeable, I think, tend to be less believing, but you can find more about that. A lot of scientists tend to be non-believers.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of using intelligent in that context, or saying people are dumb or stupid. There are plenty of really brilliant and smart Christians and theists and people of all different religious tribes.
Very capable folks.
Yes. All Lodkin Miller.
Francis Collins.
I'm not a rock.
Very intelligent guy. Right.
I am not more intelligent now as an atheist than I was when I was a Christian. I'm simply more knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. I've simply bothered to study things and think about things a little bit more rather than, I cracked more books than this one.
Right. Happiness is another one. It's kind of a mixed bag. Happiness is a mixed bag. We'll get into that a little bit. So it turns out there's mutual correlations between these things, right? If you're wealthy, you might have had more opportunities to go to college and these sorts of things. You might have a better education. If you're wealthy and intelligent, then you might have a lot more autonomy and be a happier person. So these things are kind of interrelated. Well, on the intelligence thing, I think that if you're able to think for yourself, if you're willing to think for yourself, and if you are knowledgeable about the other religions in the world and their claims, and if you're knowledgeable about the scientific claims that are being made and the scientific evidence behind that, you're going to be less religious. Because when you really do compare these things honestly, these things don't stack up. The religious claims don't stack up. So that's a very simple reason why I think intelligence is negatively, or intelligence and education is negatively correlated with religious belief. As far as wealth, I think that we have a situation where religions tend to prey on people who are down on their luck. They tend to go find those people because it's a good strategy. I've talked about this before. It's a good strategy. Bet on somebody or something when it's at its bottom, right? And then cash in as it goes up. And that's kind of what religions do. I think they go find people who are down on their luck, these sorts of things. And if you believe about this religion co-opting our breeding capabilities, which you have some skepticism about, that's fine. Then
I believe they co-opted.
Yeah. Then we have a situation where the religions are happy to have kids that are not very well educated. In fact, they might be easier to indoctrinate. So wealth and religion makes sense. Now, on happiness, we have two things I want to bring up. One is on Denmark. Denmark was claimed to be the world's happiest country, according to a survey done by the National Science Foundation. So it's not a slacky sort of survey. And they found out that the reason people were happy in Denmark, oh, by the way, Denmark has the third highest population of atheists and agnostics of any country in the world.
And the New Era study says that Texas is awesome.
Okay.
20% more non-believers, atheists, agnostics, secular people in Texas now than 20 years ago.
All right.
Biggest change of any state.
Okay.
Just thought I'd point that out.
That's interesting. Okay.
So we can take credit for that, by the way. We've single-handedly...
Well, we might have brought some folks in.
I would say that maybe it was, I don't know, bringing more tech jobs to Austin so that you get people with higher education and
stuff.
Yeah.
So in Denmark, we have apparently happiness is very strongly associated with democracy, autonomy, free choice, social equality, and peace.
And weed.
I think you might be thinking of...
Hey.
Anyway.
I've gotten emails from Denmark before.
So why... So Denmark has a lot of things going for it. It's very nice. So why in the world would the happiest country be a non-religious country if religion were such a great thing? Now, on anxiety, that's another one that's kind of more interesting, and that is that apparently people who have religious beliefs may have a less anxiety. There's a study on that, and I would claim that this has to do with this false sense of security. I would claim that this is sort of a false thing.
Yeah, if you don't feel responsible for anything that's going on around you, if it's all part of God's plan, if somebody's got your back, what the hell is there to feel anxious about?
Why would God make societies where the believers that are worse off than societies of non-believers? Why would God do that?
That's the key thing here. And by the way, when you're using God there, obviously we're talking about a broad range of God concepts. The thing that this Journal of Religious Studies thing, we've referenced this before, what it does show, it doesn't show that religion causes...
no causation implied.
There's no cause. It doesn't even say that religious societies are necessarily going to be more this way, or that there's this enormously powerful correlation. What it does do is it takes every one of those self-righteous asshats who run around saying that everything that's wrong with society is because we've gotten away from God, and that if we would just get back to my particular religious views, the world would be a much, much better place. All of you are wrong. Yeah. There is no evidence, no correlation for religion improving the world around you, and there is negative evidence. If your religion were true, and if your claims were true, then you should be able to go find a little pocket of humanity that is practicing this where there's no problems at all. And yet, what do we find when we really dig and lift those rocks and find those little pockets of humanity? We find exactly what we'd expect. We find 50, 60-year-old men marrying 13-year-old girls so they can raise more kids. We find people who turn away from medicine, who's every one of these little factors that we're talking about in the pockets. The Bible Belt, the southern part of the United States, where things are supposed to be that much better, that's where these things are worse.
Yeah, divorce rates are higher in the South, too.
And divorce rates are higher among, I can't say Christians anymore. See, here's the thing. You quote a statistic, because, there's more Christians than atheists in prison, and somebody comes up with something. Yeah, they're not true Christians. Well, the divorce rate among Christians is higher. Yeah, but those aren't true Christians. The true Christians are the ones who stayed married. Oh, well, thanks. And if they get divorced, then they're not true Christians? Yeah. And so the 25 years or so that I spent thinking I was a true Christian, now that I'm an atheist, I wasn't ever a true Christian? Yeah, that's right. Wow. I hear this all the time.
Yeah. It's a spin game, huh?
It's nuts.
So I guess you're done with your rant.
He's going to get a rant or two
and I like it.
per show. That's what they pay for, or not.
I'm going to quote someone who's actually written on the, I don't know what you call it, but it's from Sabina, and she says sexual abstinence didn't work for Virgin Mary. Just saying. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yep.
Also, I do appreciate Don and Matt. I think you're doing a great job, and I understand about your godly societies. And I think that we need to remember, too, Jim Jones and Tim McVeigh. And
yeah, I just don't like citing the extreme examples because it's not a fair assessment.
I do. Yeah.
I will say that you can get to those extremes, but it's not. There are bigger problems that actually affect all of us that come from people who would never go down the Jim Jones path.
Right. Now, I wanted to point out about the society that I do think our godly society hopefully is changing through science. We've got, unfortunately, Albert Einstein died in 1955, never was able to see the Earth from outer space, but we all can today. And then also, we finally have people going out there and saying how there is no evidence that Jesus ever existed. And I would love to hear you come on the show some more and show us just what evidences we have of Jesus.
We get asked for that a lot, the historicity of Jesus, and maybe...
It's important.
Yeah, maybe
it's important because I used to be a fundee, and that shocked me, and I needed that shock.
Yeah,
and another thing...
It's worth addressing because it's played up as true and just de facto true without any question by guys like
and the
Strobel
is pretty
and
flimsy.
McDowell.
Yeah, maybe we can.
And then the other thing is, did you know that our son is a third-generation son?
Yes.
At least a third-generation son, and that's something that's shocking too. Most people don't understand
what's more
that.
shocking, more shocking to me than the fact that it is a third-generation son is the fact that we can find out.
Exactly.
We know enough to figure out what this process is in order to identify that our son is at least a third-generation son.
We're
And I
stuff.
think that's awesome.